Evil organizations are a staple, and Fairy Tail has a good number of them when it comes to the dark guilds of Fiore, even outside of Fiore to a degree. And I have already done a video explaining what the dark guilds are and different types of dark guilds that we've seen in the Fairy Tail story. Link in the title card if you want to go watch that before you finish this video for a good full rundown on those. But for a quick recap, dark guilds are guilds that aren't affiliated with the Magic Council, that don't want to subscribe to the rules, and a lot of times operate outside the law, most of the time doing illegal jobs like assassination, money laundering, trafficking, etc. And the head of all these dark guilds that are as part of the Barham Alliance is the Oracion Seis, the first major dark guild that the characters of the story face. And this guild only comprises of a few members. But before we jump into who the Oracion Seis are and their members, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for updates on future videos. Really helps and shows you guys enjoy the content I make here on the channel and shows you want to see more. And if you want to see more of me talking about anime and manga, go and check out my manga podcast, Shonen Pulse, over on the Panel Focus YouTube channel, where me, Nox, Yatogami, and Papa Trophy talk about 9 different manga from 3 different magazines. It's a lot of fun. We get in depth with these discussions, and I would really appreciate if you guys go and check it out. Maybe we talk about something you're already reading, or maybe you want recommendations and find a discussion on one particular series interesting, and you'll pick something else up. Link to that channel will be in the description down below. And I also have another personal second channel called GW Comics, where I talk about comic books. Right now I'm focusing a bit more on DC, but I have other stuff in the works to read through and talk about in the future. That's a passion project of mine that I'm doing off on the side here and there, so I'd appreciate if you guys check it out with the link in the description as well. And now, on to the video. So, who are the Oracion Seis? The Oracion Seis is actually a guild that only comprises of 6 members, technically. But they are an incredibly powerful group of wizards that are part of the Barham Alliance, a group of dark guilds comprising of 3 alongside with Grimoire Heart and Tartarus that kind of manage all the dark guilds and kind of stay out of each other's way and stuff like that. And we fully meet these characters in what's known as, well, aptly titled, the Oracion Seis arc. In this arc, our main characters of Natsu, Lucy, Gray, Urza, and Happy join 3 other guilds to exterminate or take down the Oracion Seis guild, as they have a main goal of finding the dark magic of Nirvana, a magical power that's said to split and swap the places of light and dark, good and evil. Those who are on the verge of evil could turn evil if they're good, and vice versa. And it's a power that can bring the entire world into chaos. And so Oracion Seis' main goal originally is to find that magic and have it under their control to bring it under their manipulation. But it isn't the first time they'll go after an ancient magic artifact, as after a 7-year time skip, they reconvene again in order to find something different called the Infinity Clock, something that can manipulate and alter someone's perceptions of time, and to a degree could even manipulate time to a specific degree. Mainly other people's perceptions of time. It's a whole big convoluted thing. It's an anime-only arc, but it's anime canon that Hiro Mashima himself wanted to put in the manga originally, but decided not to, and helped write it for the anime. It's a really good arc, especially once you get to the second half, once the Seis truly show up. But those are 2 of the main goals that they have, and at least for the original goal of Nirvana, they also had many other smaller dark guilds under them, mainly for funding purposes, causing trouble here and there to keep their own main purpose under wraps, or to not have too much of an eye on them from the Magic Council and other legal guilds as stuff progressed to the point of finding Nirvana. But what makes this guild so powerful is, like I mentioned before, it's 6 members, or technical 7, which is something I'll get into in a minute. The Oracion Seis consists of 6 powerful wizards, and the original formation of the Oracion Seis is an interesting case. Yes, I did say original formation, as we've had throughout the course of Fairy Tail's history, 3 different iterations of the Oracion Seis, technically. I'll get into more of that in a minute. But the original members of the Oracion Seis have their leader, Brain, and his split personality, Zero, so they'll count as one person. They have Cobra, aka Eric, Angel, aka Sorno, Hot Eye, aka Richard, Racer, aka Sawyer, and Midnight, aka Macbeth. And then it's their secret 7th member, who is the big cane with a skull with a orb in the center of it, whose name is Clodoa. Now, the Oracion Seis, in terms of their formation, is, like I said, an interesting case, because Brain was one of the main architects of the Tower of Heaven. The R system, this resurrection machine that was originally conceived by Zareth 400 years ago, and once he had Jalal under his wing, there was a lot for him to do when it came to all the slaves and orphan children that they had working in this camp to build a pointless machine at the end of the day that they didn't know about to revive the Black Wizard Zareth, who was already alive. But that's beside the point. Something we learn in Ursa's backstory is that there were many children that attempted to escape or cause certain troubles that disappeared. And we know, especially from the anime, and later on with the Keys of Starry Heaven, and afterward Q&As from Hiromashima in the main manga volumes, that the five members of the Oracion Seis, Cobra, Racer, Sorno, Hot-Eye, and Midnight, were all child slaves in the Tower of Heaven, all wanting liberation from this place, trying to run away, trying to escape. But Brain saw something different. When they attempted to escape, he saw something in them and kind of, in a twisted way, adopted them, and basically trained them in harsh ways to become incredibly powerful wizards, using different types of powerful magic. Sorno would end up learning Celestial Spirit magic, Eric, aka Cobra, would end up using Poison Dragon Slayer magic, Hot-Eye, Richard, would end up using a type of Hot Earth magic, be able to manipulate the earth in a very lukewarm way in terms of making it like mud. We have Midnight, who has strong illusion magic and reflector magic, and we got Racer, who has speed perception magic manipulation. And they became incredibly powerful wizards over the course of these years, ever since Brain took them under his wing, with Midnight essentially being his own son, which is also incredibly twisted to that degree. Hey, so funny thing, right after this video was recorded, the most recent chapter of Fairy Tail Hunter's Quest, chapter 199, actually surprisingly gave backstory to Master Zero, and also implies some extra stuff as to why the Oracion Seis was created. So, yeah, it's a bit clunky, but let me just add this in right here. So in this flashback, we find out that Zero, whose real name we still don't know, once had a family. He had 5 children, and they were all killed by bandits, to the point where some of them had only like literal body parts remaining. And so in deep despair, Zero went and killed all these bandits, but over time, this quest for revenge ended up turning into pleasure. He ended up enjoying all of the destruction he wrought in his wake, going to him wanting to destroy everything. And so when he eventually decided to seal away his Zero persona, his manifestation of his will to destroy, that's where he met the original members of the Oracion Seis. 5 children from the Tower of Heaven that he took, and essentially became his surrogate children. He would refer to them as his kids. Even Midnight is not his actual kid, as apparently this was either retcon or was the intent the whole time. But this basically shows that the reason why the Oracion Seis are 6 members is because Zero used them as surrogate replacements for his children. Perfect replacements, if not subconsciously. Why he needed only 5 members along with himself, showcasing the guilt or subconscious desire for those 5 children to be back with him, even though, you know, he's willing to replace them if they die or get, or somebody stronger than them that he can replace them with. They are the ones that he found that would most likely resembled his original children in some way, shape, or form, and that's why they were picked to be part of the Oracion Seis. So that has a lot of heavy implications to the creation of the Seis and Zero as a character. So, yeah, that is something I was not expecting to just be revealed as this video was coming out. I did not expect new stuff for the Oracion Seis to be revealed in this arc, but hey, that's how it goes. But to make things even more interesting, Brain did not trust the destructive nature of his second personality, Zero, and so he had these other members of the Seis have body link magic linked to him. If they are killed or defeated, a piece of this body link magic seal on him would disappear, and once they're all gone, Zero's main personality would have full control and would basically wreak a bunch of havoc that even Brain wouldn't want, because it would complicate a lot of things. So, the original members of the Seis were all child slaves that attempted to escape and wanted to leave this literal enslavement as they were kids to a literal cult. but Brain took them and basically forced them to do magic in order to make his Dark Guild, and thus find his Dark Weapon to kind of manipulate their need to get back at the world, make them believe that they want to get back at the world. Meanwhile, they all have their own particular prayers in life to want to come true. As another way to read the Oracion Seis could also be, outside of the 6 demons, which is the initial translation, they could also be talked about as the 6 prayers, though we don't really know what Brain's prayer is, but we know the others. Midnight wanted to finally get a good night's sleep after experiencing all the traumas, loud noises, and just the beatings and stuff like that happened during the time as a slave. He couldn't get a good night's rest and have peace. Cobra wanted to understand the one friend he made, his snake Cubelios, who was actually a girl who had a curse put on her when she was a child and was a literal snake for a good chunk of her life, which is something to really think about, if we're going to be honest. Hot Eye, technically he wasn't a slave at the tower, he just made his way to the tower from what we can understand. He needed lots of money so for his prayer to find his younger brother, who was Wally, who was a childhood friend of Urza and was also a slave at the tower. We have Racer, who wanted to be fast enough so no one can catch him, as we see instances that he tried to run away from the slavers and cultists from the Tower of Heaven, as he wanted to get away from all that. And Angel wanted to fly away like an angel, be in the sky with these mythical creatures that she saw in the mass, these holy beings, and be happy, getting free of the cage that she was placed in at such a young age. And we can also tie into the fact that she kind of thought her younger sister, we later we get revealed is Yukino, might have been dead, or she just separated her from so long that she feels like she has no need to find her sister. And so these 5 characters had these prayers, these beliefs that they wanted to come true, but saw the world as unfair, cruel, and they wanted to be destroyed, thus the Nirvana plan. But like I said, there was another instance of them trying to get an ancient powerful magic weapon. And 7 years later, after the fact, they attempt to steal the Infinity Clock, which I explained earlier is a time perception manipulation ability, which I don't want to get into. But they have new members. At the end of the Oracion Seis arc, Richard, thanks to the power of Nirvana, basically swapped over to good because he wasn't fully evil. He just did all this stuff to find his brother, so he was good. And with Brain, he was still technically locked up. So they needed 2 more members to fill up their ranks. And so they got Metacia and Aragorn. One of the first antagonists, the first Dark Guild antagonist that we saw at the beginning of this series, ended up becoming a member of the new Neo Oracion Seis, as they were called. And their powers were upgraded, with Midnight learning more of Brain's magic, Cobra getting better hearing magic and was able to rebound sounds back to people with triple the force, Racer got actual speed magic, Sorno gained angel magic, which for the price of her lifespan, she was able to summon these, well, angel, it's later revealed to be parasites that iterate her magic power and life force for power and to be summoned, depending on how strong they are. Aragorn lost his memories for incredibly powerful wind and disaster-based wind magic. And finally, we have Imitatia, who we see revealed is the childhood favorite doll of Lucy that, with thanks to magic and imprints and stuff like that, Midnight used a powerful magic spell to essentially give her a personality in a human body, or in order to help find the Infinity Clock and manipulate Lucy, who was the final piece of the Infinity Clock, but also manipulated Imitatia to essentially sacrificing the one person in the world that she cared about. Honestly, that whole thing actually made me tear up. That was actually a really cool reveal and really good motivation for Imitatia to basically join the bad guys. She wanted Lucy all to herself, wanted her best friend, her quote-unquote sister back, and that was actually really, really touching, if I really be honest, and also very tragic, as Midnight manipulated her to kind of sacrifice Lucy without her actual knowledge. And Clodio, he's just there. He's like an advisor to Midnight and acts as his weapon. Though he did have this weird slot machine thing for like random acts of magic attacks, which was something I didn't expect, but okay. But yeah, Clodio was kind of still the secret 7th member, and Metacia was the actual real replacement for the others. But there is technically, to a degree, an 8th member, though he's not really a member, LaPointe, who apparently was a clone made by magic of Brain, or Zero. With some of Brain's hair, Midnight managed to create a pretty believable clone that helped spring them from prison, manipulated the head of the church that they wanted to have under their side. It was a whole big underground operation, manipulation, stuff like that. Very impressive for the Oracion Seis. Now their prayers are still the same, their motivations are relatively the same, but since they have a time manipulation thing, they kind of want to use that to kind of maybe fix their lives or wreck the world. But what I found interesting was that a lot of these powers that the Seis had in this arc were more so them giving up pieces of themselves and their humanity, or something that they would potentially see again, which I found interesting. Some of it didn't make too much sense, like Midnight being like, in order to gain this power, I gave up the ability to see my father in the future. That doesn't seem like much of a sacrifice, considering that he can actually, I don't know if there's like a contract or anything like that, but it is what it is. Cobra lost an eye, Racer was giving up a bit of his humanity, Sorna was giving up her soul, Ergo gave up his memories. And Imitatia, well, she didn't really have to do all that. She was just made with magic power, but that's beside the point. The original members of the Seis and Aragorn all had to lose something, which made their magic abilities very interesting, and made it a really cool thing, considering that their whole thing is a second chance of life, wanting to get out of the shackles of their imprisonment and slavery to the darkness of the world and their past, and to a degree they do get that later on. And now we get to the final iteration of the Oracion Seis in 100 Years Quest, in the current arc, and most of the members are pretty much the same with one alteration. The 5 members from the original Seis, being now with their real names, Macbeth, Sorno, Richard, Sawyer, and Eric, return to the story, but with the 6th member being Meredy, member of Crime Sorcier. Now the Oracion Seis came back as a group, but they are all technically part of the other Dark Guild, but I guess now turning into a legal guild, Crime Sorcier, to take out the Dark Guilds, anything related to Xerath, all that stuff. I'm not going to get into the whole why they are in 100 Years Quest, because I feel like the anime needs to get to that. I don't want to spoil anime onlys in this one, because it's very big plot relevancy stuff, so I'll leave that part out. All you gotta know is that Meredy helped gather the rest of these members. They came and they're fighting antagonists in the arc, one of them being closely tied to seemingly one of the Seis members, and it was pretty interesting. So I will leave it off at that. And Meredy, her magic is essentially a form of body link magic, being able to link people's emotions and pain and damage in order for it to be felt by her opponents while also weakening them. It's a very interesting usage of magic, and it's used to a multitude of different degrees. And I do kind of like it. It also helps with unison reigns, as we've seen with Juvia in the Alvarez arc. She managed to link up with Meredy using that body link magic to kind of sync their emotions, and that helps with unison reigns, which is really damn cool. And with this final version of the Oracion Seis, they have all gone through character arcs and redemption arcs, and are fighting on the side of good. Which is an interesting way for an evil organization that wanted to destroy the world due to the injustice done to them and the manipulation by a corrupt adult that basically groomed them to be these horrible people, only to come out the other side thanks to the influences of other characters like Natsu, Fairy Tail, Jalal, and Meredy to come out the other side and atone for their sins, do better for the world, and earn a place in society again with the people that they care about. Which I find is a very beautiful character arc for these characters, even though Mashima originally forgot about their backstories fully and added them in for the anime and extra wording at the end of volumes, and then expanded on that a bit more during the anime canon arc Key to the Starry Heavens, in order to help make their full character arc and characterization make a bit more sense in the manga. But that's besides the point. The Oracion Seis are a really interesting group. I like their ties to the Tower of Heaven, the darkness of their past bleeding into their perspectives of the future, and seeing them grow and develop with all their interesting magics and battles that help shape who they are today. Which is why they do kind of fight for my second favorite out of the dark guilds in the Barm Alliance, but we'll get to the rest of the Barm Alliance in future videos. I'm doing this in order of appearance. But what did you guys think? Did you enjoy this video? What do you think of the Oracion Seis as a whole? How do you feel about their arcs, their characters, their development, and their magical abilities? And who is your favorite member of each iteration of the Oracion Seis throughout the series? Let me know. And if you haven't already, once more, like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. Really helps you guys enjoy the content I make here on the channel, shows you want to see more, and leave in the comments down below a future explained videos you'd like me to go over about Fairy Tail. With all that said and done, hope you all have an awesome day.